Cherise here, your online therapist, and this is my latest teaching. What I want to speak about today is why we are attracted to the people that we are attracted to. Often we think it's quite random and arbitrary, but it is most certainly not. And this is something I work on with my clients all of the time. It's kind of understanding who we are going for and why, so we can really learn how to help ourselves be achieving what we want. So let me break down how we are imprinted with who we're going to be attracted to and who we're going to go for later in life in our romantic partners. So we have to go back to the beginning, because this is right from the beginning. This all starts happening. When we are born needing to attach. We're animals. We are primates. We need to attach for our very survival. So we come in and we are learning how to attach all of the time. And depending on our caregivers, depending on what's happening for them, we will be absorbing that. You know, we are imprinting all the time when we're little, and we're being programmed. We're being programmed by our caregivers in our environment. This is what you can expect. This is how it feels. This is what the world is like. This is what you deserve. From the tiniest age, we are being programmed to understand, okay, when I cry, love is freely given, I am comforted, the world is safe, great, I feel calm, and our little nervous systems can be calm. It's like, okay, I can be calm, the world is safe, it's all right. If, however, our caregivers were human beings and they had other things on, or maybe there was some depression, postnatal depression, maybe there was a lot of work needing to take place, maybe we didn't have the receptivity that we needed. You know, we talk about this a lot in parenting teaching, whereby we have to try to be attuned to our child's needs, because our needs may be different to our child's needs, but we will kind of give our needs to our children, and we have to be attuned to theirs. So as children, we are having needs, and our caregivers may or may not be able to do that for us, depending on what is happening for them. And so we're getting programmed. We're getting programmed about what love looks and feels like. And how we know this is how it feels in the body, because our nervous system is developing crucially at this young stage. The nervous system is activated when we cry, when we need something. Our nervous system gets activated, and depending on how we're responded to, that nervous system is either going to be calmed and soothed, or it's going to remain slightly activated. And this is how, over time, things develop. And as I've spoken to you guys about before, our attachment styles then come into play. So if our nervous systems are sort of activated a lot of the time, if our caregivers weren't sufficiently attuned to us, other things were happening, we were sensitive, or our parents were sensitive, etc., etc., there can be a misattunement, and our nervous systems as tiny little beings will be affected by that. And so that just means we're getting programmed into, this is what it feels like to be cared for. When we are cared for, it can feel calm and soothing and predictable and consistent and reliable, or it can feel a bit inconsistent sometimes, and that's a bit unpredictable, and that's a bit worrying. So my nervous system might be a bit activated as a little thing whose very survival depends on the people around them, or the family situation is so sort of chaotic and kind of crazy that the nervous system is continually activated because the care is really inconsistent or really unhelpful, etc., etc., and we are then being programmed into what care feels like, and therefore what love feels like is it can feel scary, it can feel inconsistent and confusing, or it can feel really secure and great and comforting, and it can have all the little sort of gradients in between all of that. And our nervous system imprints that. This is what it feels like. This is how I can recognize it in the future. If I feel this, then I will recognize, okay, this is family, this is care, this is love, this is what it feels like, because I recognize this. This is what I was taught when I was tiny, when my whole being was about how to attach and imprinting that. this is what I learned. I learned that this is how it feels. Okay, so you can start to see where I'm going with this. So as we know, the anxious and avoidant attachments are more around insecurity. So there's been something imprinted around inconsistency, too much, too little, etc. It creates this insecurity in us. Nervous system's quite activated. Secure attachment is, congratulations parents, you did a good enough job. They're kind of secure. Your kid is secure, which probably means you're secure. Children who develop anxious or avoidant attachment often have anxiously or avoidantly attached parents. Okay, so this is a whole nature-nurture thing again. So genetically, that's happening for them. So that's going to imprint powerfully, obviously, that's already there. And then also the nurture, the environment is going to double imprint it. So, it's all our learning when we're little. This is how it is. This is how it is. And when then we're raised in these families, in these systems, by these people every day of our lives, this is what's going to imprint. This is what's going to feel like love, feel like family. And we don't question it. As little people, we're not like, oh, I don't like this. This feels a bit unsafe, so I must be mindful not to choose unsafe people later on in life. We are absorbing that and thinking this is how it's meant to be. This is what I deserve, and this is what it feels like. And there's no questioning, of course not, we're tiny, we don't have the ability to do that. So it imprints so powerfully in us, and that lives in us unconsciously. Every minute of every day, that is in us. Okay, this powerful, powerful imprint. And that sort of security or insecurity obviously impacts us in so many ways. So we're going to take that to school. We're going to take that to our friendship group. We're going to take that to our studies and how well we do at school, depending on how secure we feel or how anxious or avoidant or insecure we feel. Okay, and then things start happening here. Things start happening. If we have a little anxious attachment, I think there's something around the anxiety around attachment. So when I'm saying we're learning how to attach, what I mean is with our anxious attachment, we're learning I need to work hard to attach. I need to maybe cry extra hard. And then when we're older, we have to be extra cute, extra pretty, extra funny, extra quiet, don't make any waves. We're learning what we need to get the care that we need to survive. This is deep primitive urges in us. And as children and as things, we're sort of looking around, okay, this is what I need to do. What do I need to do to keep mommy and daddy close? Okay, I've got to do this. And this is when sort of young acting out behavior can happen, or acting in behavior. So we can see the perfectionism coming in really, really quickly. So the anxiously attached children are starting to be like these little overachievers in the world already. I need to work hard. I need to sing for my supper. I need to control what's going on around me. And by doing that, I'm going to try to be perfect. I'm going to do really well. I'm going to be really, really cute. That's the one thing. Or there's the other thing, which is possibly slightly more avoidant, slightly more rebellious. Like, okay, well, if I'm extra bad, then I get attention. If I'm naughty and I push the boundaries or whatever, that's when they come. And then I realize, okay, they do care about me. Okay, they're here, great. I need to do this rebellious behavior for them to come and attach with me and care for me. Okay, learning that, imprinting. So these two things, imprinting. Someone's doing well at school. Well done. Okay, oh, that's what I need to do to survive. That's what I need to do to be loved, be affirmed. Okay, powerful, powerful stuff. And it's all unconscious. None of this is overtly expressed. But my word, this is what happens. And every little time this happens, it is confirmed in us. Another thing to say about this, maybe especially around the avoidance, is we have to talk about how we raise little boys and girls here. Because there is something around the avoidant attachment that is about a shutting down of emotions. So due to our personality type, we can absolutely naturally shut down, be like, I can't handle this, this is too much, I'm shutting down, and we kind of do that as a protective mechanism for sure. Okay, so that's part of personality, that's part of coping. It's also part of how we raise little boys to be men. And this is where we really have to start questioning that and challenging that very, very, very deeply, because what we are actually doing is we are raising avoidant people a lot of the time. People who struggle with emotions, struggle with connection, and are quite detached and aloof because they have had to do that. They've been taught to do that, and they've been punished if they weren't that. And for the mums and dads out there, you'll know your little boys. You'll know what sensitive, gorgeous souls they are. And that just gets shoved down by our society, by our schooling, and by the way things are set up. And so again, we're learning how to survive when we're little. So we learn, oh, daddy doesn't like it when I cry. Or if I go to school and I look confused in class, people laugh at me. Okay, I can't do that. Okay, and so we're learning to be avoidant, or we're learning to be anxious. It's so powerful what goes on. Okay, it's so insidious, and you'll see as we grow up, it just becomes more and more part of our lives. Okay, so this is us, sponges. So, as I say, we have our nervous systems are then programmed. Okay, we are so emotionally directed in our lives. When we're little, it's our emotions that are guiding us where to go. So if we're feeling anxious, if we're feeling attached, this is how it's going to happen. So this is what feeling looks like. Okay, if we have a secure attachment, as we know, it's very low anxiety. Great. And if there is a degree of anxiety, it's very quickly soothed. And there's a lot of peace, and it's supportive. You know, we have good enough parents, we've got secure parents who come in and are appropriate and calm and non-reactive, and there's a security within the home. There's a consistency. That's what we say in our parenting teaching. Consistency. Consistency is really helpful. For the anxious attachment, as we know, obviously, anxious attachment is a high anxiety. And so what relationships can feel like in the nervous system is it's overwhelming. Okay, it's overwhelming our feelings. Our feelings overwhelm us, and then this is when we come in with all the behavior of the perfectionism and everything else that I'll talk about in a minute. So there's a sort of, it feels overwhelming, and when we're in a relationship, we often feel unsupported. If we're anxiously attached, it's like we're often in the supporting role. We are not supported, but we want support. You know, the thing about the anxious attachment in particular, and I think it's there with the avoidantly attached as well, but it's just very well hidden. But with these insecure attachments, there's a yearning. You know, when we're little, we need stuff. We need to be held. We need to be soothed. We need to be seen. We need to be reflected back. There is so much there, and we need to have these really quite powerful relationships with our attachment figures, which we do have. But if they aren't really loving and tender, what this does is there's kind of a lack. You know, there's a sort of, there's an absence in our nervous systems. We want something that we never quite get. We don't get the soothing. We don't get the validating. So it's difficult to then just be calm and have that confidence that comes with that level of security. And so what I see in my clients, and you know, it's so sort of human, is that we kind of grow up yearning for acceptance, yearning for the love in whatever way that we didn't get. And when we grow up into adults, we take that into our relationships, all this yearning, and we think this is how it's all going to come to me now. I'm going to have the love affair that I've always wanted, and I'm going to feel how my nervous system has always wanted to feel, and it never has. Okay, so this thing of feeling unsupportive is a bit of an understatement in terms of how we can feel in relationship. You know, we can feel bitterly disappointed, and actually on some deep level we've been bitterly disappointed maybe from the get-go, because we didn't get what we needed when we were so tiny. And that yearning, that sort of cellular need goes unmet in us. And that's hard to live with, and that's hard to carry. So it can feel very overwhelming and unsupportive, and that can be a deeply powerful thing. With the avoidant attachments, there are two, as you know, and how that feels for the dismissive attachment, it's low anxiety. But low anxiety is numbed out. I don't really buy that. I mean, when I'm working with clients, I work with a lot of avoidant clients. Of course, they shut down. They can be very dismissive, and they like to put people down to create distance and like to be haughty, and well, they don't like to be that. That is how they deal with life, and that's a coping strategy. And so it's easy to think that they're unfeeling and they don't give a damn, and they're in their own little bubble, and that is kind of true, but underneath that is a little boy once upon a time who really wanted to attach. There is no question. As children, we want to attach. We are desperate for it. Our lives depend on it. And so if we're dealing with an avoidantly attached person, that is someone that deeply, on a really unconscious level, wants to attach, but learnt long ago to give up the ghost on that one. So the learning that it takes, the level of safety that is required to kind of break down those barriers and walls is enormous. And so it's, these are all sad stories. These aren't happy stories. These are all sad stories. This behavior shows that. So the dismissive is stuck in this low anxiety place, quite numbed out, feels and finds relationships suffocating. They feel engulfed, smothered. These are some of the sensations that they will report. Then the fearfully attached, that's a more high anxiety attachment, as you know, full of fear, full of overwhelm, wants to be involved, but sort of can't. And so this is really, really sad. So again, you can feel the yearning coming through, desperately wanting to attach, desperately wanting to have relationship. But the very, very thing that you want more than anything else is also the thing that you're absolutely most terrified of. And that speaks of some very confusing messages, I guess, when you were little, about how great love must have felt, but also how absolutely terrifying it must have felt as well. So again, lots of sad stories there about what happened there for that child to imprint that so powerfully. And so the avoidant attachment, this is when we start talking about our romantic relationships. This is the emotionally unavailable people. Really struggling to be emotionally engaged, shutting down or being frightened, keeping distance. This is kind of what happens within avoidance. So, we all, as I outlined in my last teaching, the avoidantly attached and the anxiously attached are often in relationship together, and thereby triggering each other and keeping each other in this place. So from whatever was imprinted when they were younger, that of course is what I'm saying is sort of, we've learned that's what it is. That's what love feels like. That's what it looks like. This is what I deserve. This is what I want. I want the familiar. I want to go back to that place and be really where I know everything. And the anxious and avoidant fit hand in glove. Because often the avoidant will have had some kind of avoidant or anxiously attached parent, and they responded to that with the need to shut down, but also all of the conditioning through socializing that told them to shut down. And the anxiously attached often had some kind of an avoidant parent. That's why the yearning is there. If they'd had another anxiously attached parent, they would have learned to be anxiously attached for sure. And that might be the greatest level of presenting issues. But if there's that yearning there, then there's been an avoidant parent. And often there is an avoidant parent because, our parents' generation and beyond, were not in any way aware of, and it wasn't really part of their life to be emotionally engaged the way we expect and understand now is really helpful. So there will have absolutely been avoidance in the baby years and childhood years to imprint the yearning in the anxiously attached. So because that's what we know, that is what we're going to go for. In our rational minds, we might think, okay, well, we know that, okay, now I know that I didn't get that need met, and that's really important to me, and I have this yearning, and I have this lack, so let me go out and find a really secure person who can meet all of those needs. And that sounds great. And a lot of therapists will subscribe to that, and obviously that's fantastic if we can do that. But when we're little, all of the stuff that we're imprinted with and the relationship that we have with our caregivers, it affects our nervous systems, but it also affects our brain chemistry and all the chemistry in our body. And we love our parents. We love our parents no matter what. Even if we grow up to hate them, we still love them. They've had this huge impact on us. And what they've done to our body and brain chemistry is they've imprinted, this is what's attractive. This is what love feels like. This is the kind of person that, has love in your life. This is how they treat you. This is what you can expect, etc., etc. That's also what's being imprinted, is we want that. And what often happens that I notice in my couples clients is that we actually want that sort of deeply unconsciously. We're of course going to go for what we were shown, what we were taught. This is love. And this is what a love object will look like and feel like in your body. So we go, okay, I know this. My body knows this. I'm going to walk into a room and find the one person, just feel it. My body will know that's the one that is familiar to me, that feels recognizable by every fiber of my being. And that is attraction. That's chemistry. And if we come from a secure place, that can be a really, really great thing. If we come from an anxious or an avoidant place, that just means more of the same. And that's why this just becomes a cycle. So we choose what we know, what we've been taught to us. Of course we are. What else are we going to do? We want what we wanted way back then. And then with that comes the yearning or the overwhelm. And this is the pattern that we fall into that I speak about in my previous video. So that is why we're going for certain kinds of people. And how do we recognize these certain kinds of people? Because there are characteristics and things that are sort of synonymous with both. So the avoidant is, as I said earlier, the classic unavailable type. And this means they can have addictions, mental health issues, they're elusive, they're unreachable. This is what we recognize. And they often do life on their own terms, and they can lack a bit of empathy. And what's interesting with this is that this is also reflected in all areas of our lives. So we might see that people go for certain kinds of jobs and careers whereby they can be quite avoidant. We can, with a lot of jobs, we're not expected to be super emotionally engaged and understanding. And there are very specific careers, in fact, where that's actively discouraged. That's probably where you'll find the avoidant. I think anecdotally, we always joke about the bad boy, the actors and actresses and musicians, etc., etc. Again, these are all kind of cliches, but they speak of the same thing, of people who are a little bit in their own world, maybe a little bit lost, and they are not massively interested or invested in relationships. So when they do have relationships, what we say is that they're quite under-functioning. Because of the shutdown, because of the overwhelm, because of the feeling suffocating, there is a lot of under-functioning. It's like bare minimum, don't want to do it, don't want to be crowded, etc., etc. That's under-functioning in the relationship. It's hard to be equal and give equally, feel comfortable with reciprocity. That's uncomfortable. That's part of the avoidance. We avoid the responsibility of dealing with the difficult things in relationships. We are avoidant. And as I say, if this stretches out into our life, we can also be quite avoidant with being financially on top of things, taking our careers far, being upstanding members of the community, whatever you want to call it. We can see the avoidance of responsibility. And the things that our society is set up to do all are around taking responsibility, about committing to a job, committing to a wife or a husband and a family, etc. This is all about commitment. Avoidant people are scared of commitment because they were committed long ago and it was pretty tough for them. So they're always a little bit one step out, under-functioning in a relationship, or just not in a relationship at all. The anxiously attached, welcome, overachiever type. Okay, often quite codependent, very, very, very hardworking. These will be the people in your organization or in your friendship group who are busy bees, doing stuff, organizing stuff for others, working in HR, smoothing things over the whole time. And this is what I'm saying is by being where the avoidant is under-functioning, anxiously attached is quite over-functioning in relationships, trying, fixing, rescuing, helping out, sort of putting in loads of effort, effortful, very effortful, the anxiously attached. Like I said earlier, you've got to sing for your supper. You've got to earn people's love. You've got to constantly be getting something back to be filling this yearning, this hole in the soul. How do we fill that up? Try to fill it up with other people, making other people feel good, people saying nice things about us. But it's kind of, because the wound was long ago, can't fill that up today. And certainly not with other people. So this is the rescuer caretaker in the unhealthy family roles, as I've said. So earlier on in life, what might have been part of the story is what we call the parentification of a child. Often an anxiously attached child will have been invited in from very, very young to be a little parent to their parent. So if mummy or daddy or mother, father were away, or emotionally unavailable, or depressed, or there was a divorce, often there's a child that's called upon to kind of take on this adult role and be a little wife or a little husband to their parent, and they end up sort of parenting the parent a little bit, and they can also parent their siblings. So again, it's this sort of over responsibility quite young, and this is what you need to do. It's your job now to help the parent or raise your siblings. So again, the imprinting is, okay, it's my job to focus on others. It's my focus to care for others, not care for me, not receive. As children, we should always be the receivers, not the givers. We should be the receivers. But suddenly we learn, oh no, okay, I shouldn't really be questioning anything, and I shouldn't be receiving. I need to be giving. And then again, this imprints. I need to give in this world to have value. My self-worth is around how much I give, etc., etc., etc. Sad stories. So these are the rescuers and caretakers of the world. Woman Who Loved Too Much. I think it was Robin Norwood wrote that bestseller decades ago. A woman who loved too much. Hello, anxiously attached woman there that she's describing. A lot, everything's maybe a bit too much. Love too much, care too much, try too much, fix too much. It's a lot of too much. So that speaks of the over-functioning versus under-functioning. So you can see the pain when these two get together. Under-functioning, over-functioning, and the over-functioner just over-functions more, which makes the under-functioner under-function more. And it becomes this incredibly painful cycle. So this is what's familiar to us. This is what we repeat. This is why we go for the people that we go for, because they're going to meet our expectations. If we were raised with this in our life, we are going to be attracted to that. If we were raised with this in our life, we're going to be attracted to that. Whatever has been familiar to us and imprinted in us into our nervous systems, that is what every fiber of our being will recognize and know. Someone just instantaneously, we will know, and we will match, and we will date, and we will sleep with, and we will have relationships with, and we will marry these kinds of people who are really familiar to us and who are familiar to our nervous systems. And we will choose people who will fulfill these familiar patterns for us. And what we do is we engage in this pattern as well, and we kind of make that happen. So we are complicit as well. We will, of course, keep doing what we've been doing, and they will keep doing what they were doing. And this is how we both meet each other's needs. But that's an unhealthy thing born of a wounding when we were little. So we have to be careful. Now, I can hear a lot of you maybe saying, yes, I know, my mother was this, my father was this. That's why I've gone for the complete opposite. And that is what a lot of people do. If they've had difficult childhoods, they go, right, that's never happening to me. My father drank, and that's never happening. I'm never drinking, whatever. And this can actually, I think, sometimes show the power of what goes on when we're little. Because you will know in your own life, or maybe the life of people that you see around you, is that unfortunately those patterns will perpetuate. So say we had a parent who did drink to excess and was alcoholic. We will be attracted to people with addictive issues later in life. Or if we're not, we will have the addictive issue, and we will then attract the counterpart to that. and this is actually sort of something that is quite powerful that I see a lot, is we swap. And what I've seen a lot is young men, maybe quite anxiously attached initially in their lives, have a couple of relationships and get hurt. And then the shutting down takes place. And then what you've got is you've got an avoidant man on your hands. Same can happen with women. Women, we get angry, we get annoyed, we've sort of had enough. After a period of time, we're going to be quite avoidant. Or we're going to choose someone anxiously attached so we can be avoidant, because this allows us to feel a bit more in control. I think in the avoidant category, there's a bit of a mistaken, but there's a perceived sense of control more. You sort of hold a lot of power in the relationship. The anxiously attached can often feel very powerless in relationship. The avoidant, the attached, can have a lot of power. They sort of call the shots a little bit. So after you've been anxiously attached and had those kind of relationships, it's the same kind of trauma, it's the same kind of wound. We just flick the switch and it's like, okay, that's it. I'm going to shut down. And then I'm going to, but then that doesn't mean we're suddenly going to have secure relationships and all our wounding is going to be healed and it's all going to be okay. It's like, no, well, obviously we're going to then attract an anxiously attached person. So we can do one or the other. You know, these are coping strategies, these are imprints, because we will have had both growing up. So we will be familiar with both. We'll have both living in us. So we might go naturally to one in terms of our personality, but we are more than capable of doing the other side. And then we're just shooting ourselves in the foot either way. Anyway, I've given you guys a huge amount of information. I'd love to hear what you've made of what I've shared. And I will develop this more because it's a very, very big subject. And I really want you to know and empower yourselves with as much information as possible, because having this knowledge and making all these unconscious processes more conscious means we can start making choices that are healthier for us and that can meet some of our needs in much more effective ways. So thanks so much, and I'll see you next time.